What's going on, college football fans? Welcome back to the First and Long College Football Show. As always, I'm your co-host Marcus, joined by my co-host Mason, and you are tuning in to the Week 6 Overreaction Show. We are about to react to everything that we just saw in a wild Week 6 of college football. Holy cow. What a pleasure it was to be able to sit back, crack a cold one, and tune in to what was some of the best action that we've seen all year. And it was one of the sleepiest weekends that we had previewed. And boy, college football just never disappoints. This weekend is exactly why I love this sport. You don't get this stuff in the NFL. Home field advantage doesn't matter in the NFL like it does in college football. And that was proved today. Mason, how are you, buddy? What did you think about this Week 6 action that we just tuned into?
Man, what are we going to talk about tonight, Mark? I mean, my gosh, I guess we're going to have to manufacture some talking points tonight. Guys, we told you when we did our previews of this week that it looks lackluster on paper, but it will not be lackluster. And I never could have envisioned an upset, on Alabama by Vanderbilt. Tennessee gets upset by Arkansas. USC goes down to Minnesota. SMU gets beat. I mean, just upsets galore. We've got a jam-packed show tonight. Mark, we got to do something to keep this under 3 hours because we could go on all freaking night into the wee hours of the morning talking about this week. It was a lot of fun. You're exactly right. I get asked all the time, why don't y'all do NFL? Why don't y'all talk about NFL at all? And I mean, why would you when you have this much excitement, this much to talk about, in one night? It was absolutely amazing as college football fans. Look, I know we got a lot of Tennessee fans. I see TriStar in the chat. I know you guys are probably just upset, frustrated, but as college football fans, we got to be happy with what we got. That was extremely entertaining. I was glued to the TV for most of the day, and man, I'm ready to break it down with you, Mark. Where would you like to start? The floor is yours, sir. I mean, we can go anywhere you want.
Let's strike while the iron's hot, I guess. And look, we've got TriStar in the back room already, Mason. You wanna bring him on and let's hear what he's got to say about the Tennessee game. And yeah, look, TriStar, I'm gonna bring you on here. We'll get you on here for a few minutes, and then we'll kind of have to get through some of the rest of these games. But I am interested to see what you've got to say. Let's see here. TriStar, how are you, man?
Well, I mean, I could be doing better, but I'm not as mad as you would think. Because this season, as I have said numerous times, feels like it's a 1 week per game type season. You don't know what you're getting week to week. And I got to say, I hate seeing Tennessee fans already off of this one game trying to sell Heupel and Nico down the river and the offensive line coach down the river and all that stuff. That's ridiculous. I mean, we've played great so far this year. We have one bad game, and it just happened to not be our day. But, I mean, again, it's still a long season. I mean, we still got Alabama coming up. We still got Georgia coming up. I mean, we play Florida next week, and we get them at home. So, I mean, well, look, I'll say this.
Go ahead.
Credit to Arkansas, man. They came to play, and if you watched Arkansas this year, really they should be undefeated. To me, it still boggles my mind that they lost that Oklahoma State game. They really should have won last week against Texas A&M. If they win those two games and they win today, you're talking about a 6-0 Arkansas team.
TriStar, you are an exemplary fan of the First and Long College Football Show, and I appreciate you not making any excuses tonight because you're exactly right, and you stole the words right out of my mouth. Arkansas, if they don't turn the football over as much as they did this year, and they came into this game with a negative turnover margin, ranked 90-something in the country. We talked about it last week on the show. If they don't turn the ball over, what happens? And that was my biggest question whenever we bet on this game, Tennessee was one of my best bets. I was dead wrong on this football game, just like everybody else in the comment section, other than the Arkansas fans. But my thing, the exact thing I said on the Between the Lines show was, I'm only worried if Arkansas doesn't make the mistakes that they've made all year. And they didn't make those mistakes today. Now, they didn't score as many points. Their points didn't match up with their yards still, especially in the first half. Arkansas, I thought, was cooked going into halftime with all those yards on the stat book and only 3 points on the scoreboard. I said, well, that was their chance, and they weren't able to capitalize. But you just got to tip your cap whenever it's time to tip the cap, and I appreciate you doing that because, I 100% agree with you. Arkansas played a solid football game today. Was it a perfect game by Tennessee? No, it wasn't. What were your thoughts about the offense for Tennessee tonight, and what were your thoughts about Nico?
Well, again, you have to remember this is Nico's 6th start, and this is also back-to-back road games. And it was a tough environment. They showed up, and the offensive line did not play good. The offensive line couldn't hold up, so they couldn't get the run game established in the first half. If I'm not mistaken, Tennessee only had like a little over 100 yards of offense in the first half.
Yeah.
And
it was pretty rough.
Now part of that was that our defense didn't play as good as they should have in the first half, and they were giving up these really long drives. I think on time of possession, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tennessee only had the ball for like 4 minutes in the first half. Yeah. But again, it just, it was just one of those days, and it's just crazy.
It was a really good game plan by Arkansas, because I'm going to tell you
it was a
we talked about it last week. If they could figure out a way to provide pressure without having to bring extra bodies, then they were going to be able to match up with Tennessee, and that's what they did tonight. They didn't need a bunch of extra bodies. They brought 3 or 4 because we knew Arkansas starting defensive linemen we knew they were good. They're just not deep. They're not deep, and I saw Landon Jackson at the end of this football game. Oh my God! If you go back and watch Landon Jackson, that's one of the defensive ends for Arkansas. He didn't have any starch in his jeans left. I mean, he was a limp noodle out there. And couldn't do anything, and Tennessee just about drove down the field and won that football game. But look, I have to say it wasn't a great performance by the offensive line. I thought if somebody's bringing 3 or 4, you've got to be able to power run the football, and we didn't see that in the first half enough, and it created a deficit for Tennessee. And in a low-scoring game like this, going to the locker room with 0 points on the board at halftime, it ended up coming back to bite Tennessee. It was too little, too late. Mason, what did you think about the game?
Yeah, this was another example of what we saw from Tennessee's defense under Heupel so far in this quick game. When they're not able to get the long, methodical drives, it costs the defense, and the defense looked gassed. Especially when Eason goes out. I mean, that's a big contributor on the defensive line. He goes out. That's another body that you can't have in there fresh. And I saw it wear on this Tennessee defense. But even in the beginning, it seemed like Arkansas, with Jackson, who went down late in the game, was getting some yards on the ground. I did not expect that. I thought that Tennessee had handled the run really well on defense. Tonight, Arkansas and Bobby Petrino kind of out-schemed Tim Brooks in this defense for Tennessee, and Tim Banks. Excuse me, thank you. But that was the biggest thing for me was just the chess match there between Petrino and Banks. I talked about it in the preview. I even though it wasn't perfect, at least from a sense of scoring points. I thought that Petrino called a great game from beginning to end. It seemed like the plays were called in the right way. Credit Singleton too, coming in at the end of the game. I mean, didn't look great. I mean, definitely looked like it was his first time playing, but did enough on that last drive to score. I mean, obviously Tennessee just kind of let them score at the very end. But him in this running game without Jaquindon Jackson pushed the ball down the field. I thought as soon as Taylor Green goes out, I thought it was game over for Arkansas. They weren't going to be able to score. But Singleton kind of bowed up.
And credit to that credit to that backup for Arkansas too. Credit
that
to him,
running back.
man. And that big 250-pound running back. I mean, he looked like Jerome Bettis out there running. I mean,
yeah.
But I'll say this, it's still a long season. When
this
people
is the beauty of the 12-team playoff, TriStar. This is the beauty of it right here. This
I've got
loss doesn't have to mean anything.
I've got my own thoughts on the 12-team playoff and all this realignment stuff, but this is not the night for it, But I'll
Me
say
too.
this.
I'm with you.
Yeah, having USC and Minnesota's a conference game, but besides the point. Or Cal and Miami. Oh, by the way, what is the score right now in that Cal Miami game?
It is 21-10 Cal right now, and there's 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the first half. So we still got a lot of football left to play, but Cal is winning 21-10. Cal is a very physical football team, man. They're not great, but they are very physical.
Yeah, Justin Wilcox, our old defensive coordinator back when Derek Dooley was head coach.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was the DC back in 2011. Then he took the Cal job. Yeah, he's been at Cal for 10 years.
Okay.
But yeah, man, I hate we lost. It sucked because I was hoping, we eke out that win. We, then we end up at, number 3 or whatever. But again, it's such a long season. Georgia's already lost.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas. And here's my little hot take for next week. I'm picking Oklahoma in the upset.
Yeah,
I could see that. I mean, and Oklahoma won last year, and they didn't have any business competing in that football game. So why couldn't they do it this year? Right? I mean, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, they got the defense.
And I was just about to say that, dude. We all know what their defense is. It's really good, and I think they can match up decently with Texas. Well, it'll all depend on Hawkins, that freshman quarterback. Well, look. TriStar, I'm gonna throw a couple more logs on the fire here, and I'm gonna get your kind of your thoughts on it. And I don't want to offend anybody, so nobody get offended here. There's no sense in that. But a little bit of what I saw tonight from Nico was what I was kind of talking about over the last couple of weeks. We need to all calm down a little bit on the Nico hype train, just a little bit. And I'm not talking about you, TriStar. I'm speaking in generalities here.
Yeah, most Tennessee fans were calling him the Lord and Savior and the next big thing, and I think he will be. I think that play I mean, go watch that play where he threw it to Dante in double coverage. I mean, that looked like Patrick Mahomes out there. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Now listen, when I say that, I'm not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. There's only one Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, to make a play like that and improvise, that was great. But again, I think he's going to get better as the season goes on. I think I think this game needed to happen the way it did to kind of reset it and maybe recalibrate things going forward. You get home next week against Florida. Florida's been absolutely terrible this year. Of course, knowing the history of that series, that'll probably be a ball game somehow. But I mean,
maybe
you just regroup and you move on, and you don't take this loss to heart, and you actually make it in the wounded animal mode, and we'll see how the season goes. But man, I'm hoping kind of Cal holds on, so that way at least if we lose, okay, yeah, but we weren't the only top 10 team to lose.
Hey, well, Bama helped you out there too. Well, look,
that one was way worse.
Yeah, we'll get to that one, and it was way worse. But look, here's my final thoughts. We got to pump the brakes a little bit on the Nico thing. Tennessee is a run-first football team. Tennessee was able to lean on this Arkansas defense enough to be able to run the football some in the second half. It was a slow start running the football, but we're able to lean on them a little bit, wear them out. how is that going to translate whenever you've got, whenever you go against a defensive line that can rotate a lot of guys? We'll kind of have to see. But Nico, part of his problems weren't just the fact that, it's Nico and it's his first year starting. It was the fact that Arkansas was able to rush 3 men in a lot of cases and drop everybody else and still control the run decent enough. Think about all of the guys that are back there it's crowded. It's absolutely crowded back there. And Nico, being a first-year starter, as you would expect, whenever you've got that many people in the defensive backfield back there, it's going to be tough to throw into the defense that way. Even on a team like Arkansas, who hasn't been great secondary-wise. I mean, they haven't been terrible, don't get me wrong, but they haven't been great by any means.
It's not like the 2001 Miami or something,
Right. And then look, this is kind of my final thing here. And I don't want to piss anybody off, but it is kind of my obligation to call things as I see it. And, TriStar, I don't consider you to be a snowflake, so I'm sure you can take what I say. And honestly, when I say this, I'm not really like, I don't know. I was a defensive player, and I was like not a very nice, like I was kind of like, I might try to hurt you or something. And I know defensive players.
You was a John Lynch type player. You was a headhunter.
Well, I mean, I wasn't like some kind of badass football player, but I was mean. I had a mean streak. And this Tennessee defense has got a serious mean streak. And I'm not trying to accuse anybody of like trying to hurt anyone, but it seemed like they were maybe trying to hurt some people in this football game. Like, there was several times
that felt like an old school, like 70s, 80s.
Did you see it too, TriStar? Did you see it, Mason?
Yes, I did.
Y'all see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You're talking about, was that a Norman Lott, I think?
Yeah.
He went for the quarterback's leg. Yeah.
Yeah. They're nasty. I mean, they're nasty. These guys are nasty. They don't just want to beat you. They want to hurt you. I mean, they're
a lot of that is Rodney Garner. A lot of that's Rodney Garner's teachings because he's very old school like that. So
yeah,
is what.
Yeah.
It is.
Hey, look, like I said, I mean, I'm not. It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm just kind of putting out what I see. But look, TriStar, we're going to keep moving through these games, man. I certainly do appreciate you coming and tuning in and hanging out with us. And I hope that you'll come back and do it again, man. You're a real one, dude, and I certainly appreciate you. And if later on in the show you got something else you want to say, come back on here in a little bit.
Oh,
okay?
I got plenty to say once you get to some other games.
All right, sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can sit in the back room if you want to. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference to us. So, thank you. And anybody that wants to come on, hit the link in the description, man. We want to talk to you guys. Appreciate you. Double O'Neal, hey, welcome back, man. I seen that low hit on Green. Yeah, that was pretty nasty, dude. And look, I've already seen this from Tennessee earlier this year, but I didn't say anything because I was like, maybe it was just the game. Maybe it was just, I don't know. They be contorting some ankles and some knees and some woo-wee. I mean, my goodness. But, hey, credit to TriStar coming on here and not going and hiding. You know what I mean? And facing the music. And I mean, respect. I can respect the hell out of that. All right, Mason. Well, where do we go next? Where should we go next? Maybe to Nashville. Maybe we'll go to Nashville.
That'd be a good place to be right now.
It's everybody's favorite road game. Ain't that right?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban said it's the only SEC game that doesn't have a home field advantage. He said that on College Game Day today.
Yeah,
which they didn't, but they still won. I mean, he wasn't wrong, but they still won.
Well, you know what? I think they had a little bit of a home Broadway Street advantage whenever they were toting the field goals down Broadway, probably knocking over bridesmaids and bachelorette groups, and it made its way to the river. Whenever you beat Alabama, you must remove the goalpost and you must find the nearest river, and you must get it submerged immediately.
I don't even know
And
what that river is. Like, I was talking about it with my wife, and she was like, they threw it in the river? I was like, well, I wonder what river that was.
probably
Maybe
like
it was
a
the
creek.
Tennessee River. Maybe that's a second one in the Tennessee River. I don't geographically, I don't really know what rivers run near Nashville, but and of course, the Vanderbilt fans would rush the field in like an orderly fashion. They're like scooting down the stairs.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
That was pretty funny. I was wondering where they were. I'm like, I know y'all are ready to get on the field, and they
all took the stairs. They all took the stairs.
Yeah.
No rushing. The SEC is going to start making all the teams get water dissolving field goal posts. That's what's going to happen next. They're going to have to be able to dissolve in water and turn into fish food whenever you throw them into the water. Vanderbilt 40, Alabama 35. Alabama never even led in this football game, not one time. That's the first time that's happened. 2019, right?
Go ahead. Yep. November 2019. Glad you had that one ready.
Vanderbilt had 26 first downs in this game, and they were 12 of 18 on third down. 418 total yards, 252 yards through the air, 166 yards rushing. Diego Pavia, obviously the man of the hour, the man of the night, or however you want to label him. 16 of 20, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 20 rushes for 56 yards. My God, a gritty performance. I mean, just an absolute. And I'd be lying if I said that my face didn't get a little red whenever they did that interview at the end of the game. And he said, when I was a kid, I dreamed about a moment like this. And I'd be lying if I didn't get a little dust in my eye or some shit. I don't know what happened. But man, you got to be really happy for a journeyman like that. And I don't know, man. It was really, really cool to see that. First time they've ever beat a top 5 team ever. And you're talking about Vanderbilt. That's a pretty long time there. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss for the Vandy defense today. And Vandy did what UGA couldn't, Mason. They kept Milroe in the pocket. They made him win with his arm. Did he pass for some yards? Yes, he did. Sure he did. But they made him prove it by staying in the pocket. He had, what did he have? 7 rushes for 10 yards today, man. Georgia, we're going to talk about them in a minute, has got a problem sealing the edge. It's pretty clear. Everybody knows it at this point. That wasn't a problem for Vandy today. It wasn't a problem.
No.
This is not a fluke. This game wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a game where Alabama had 600 yards and Vandy had 300, but Alabama turned the ball over, although Jalen Milroe did turn it over twice, and it was very costly to his team. And before I say something stupid, what did you think about this football game?
Well, clearly Bama sucks. I mean, I'll say something stupid for you. Clearly Bama's just awful. They beat our Georgia
they
Bulldogs
still don't
last
suck
week.
as bad as Jalen Milroe's fake ass hair. What the hell is wrong with you? Are you some kind of chick? You got fake ass fit in whatever pin in hair that you got going on. You look like a damn idiot. I'm sorry.
Well,
Let me keep drinking my beer. You go right ahead.
I didn't catch the hair football, going on there, but
dude, it looks like some ropes that I could go down to Ace Hardware and buy up under some cap or whatever he's got. I look. If it looks good, it looks good. If it looks bad, it looks bad. This dude looks like a Kentucky Fried idiot.
Going back to the game, I'm watching this. I'm watching this game, and of course I've got other games on at the time. Georgia's playing Auburn, so I'm watching that. Kind of just expecting Bama to win this game, even as Vanderbilt, takes a lead at first. I mean, I'm just thinking at some point Bama's going to show up and take this ball game over. And credit Vanderbilt, they kept driving. I mean, you mentioned it wasn't a fluke. It really wasn't. You watched the game. Vanderbilt looked more physical than Bama. It was really impressive to see Diego Pavia. I'm watching him play, and as a Georgia fan, I'm thinking, well, can we get a Diego Pavia? like this dude is awesome. Heart of a freaking lion, this guy. And now I'm looking at Vanderbilt, and I'm thinking, had they been able to pull out the win last week against Missouri, or it might have been 2 weeks ago, but had they been able to win that, beat Georgia State like you're supposed to, we're talking about an undefeated Vandy team right now. And they don't look like a bottom feeder right now. I think this is Lee's third season with Vanderbilt, if I'm not mistaken, and they really it looks like he's really just transformed this team. They've got some hope now. They're playing. I mean, from the get go, it looked like they were supposed to be in this football game. They were completely jazzed up. That first drive, they get the ball and they're going down and they're in Bama's face, as they're extending the drive and all. And man, I was really impressed with Vanderbilt. They did have the pick six, which obviously helped them. The big sack fumble, in the third quarter. And
dude, Milroe got smoked. God.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he did. I mean, those two plays were, definitely kind of helped decide the game, but make no doubt about it, Vanderbilt came to play. They had a better game plan, caught Bama sleeping. I don't think you didn't see the great coaching that you saw in the Bama and Georgia game in this game, and credit Vanderbilt, man. I can't say enough about that team and what they've been able to do in this football game and all season long, really. Just a couple of kind of fluky losses there, but this team's for real. Hey, I'm glad Georgia doesn't play him this year. I'll be honest with you. This is a pretty good Vandy team.
Double O'Neil was joking around in the comment section. He said, I think someone told everyone there's a 12-team playoff this week. And, I mean, no kidding. Everybody used their mulligan right here on the front nine. We got right down here to the end of the front nine, and everybody's like, I'm going to have to use my mulligan right here. Man, I tell you what, Double O'Neil says everyone is believing they got a chance because they do. Yeah, you're right, man. There ain't no dominant team right now. I mean, if there is one, they still haven't played anybody, namely talking about Ohio State. They won today handily over Iowa. They've played a couple of Power 5 teams, but pretty shoddy ones. Yeah, Vanderbilt crams it down Alabama's throat for the last couple of minutes of that football game. We're living in a world where we're going to have to tell our kids that Vandy can cram it down Bama's throat, but Georgia can't. I don't know what got into them boys, but good for Vanderbilt. 40-35 over Alabama. Junior Sherrill, shout out, wide receiver, burned that Alabama secondary there on that long touchdown pass. Felt like that was a big momentum shift there in the football game.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. Unbelievable game. Where do we want to go next, man? We got some good ones to talk about. We got some not so good ones to talk about. Let's go to a couple of the. Let's see. Let's go to a couple of the.
What about Texas A&M and Missouri, the only top 25 matchup of the week.
Let's do Texas A&M, Missouri, and then let's talk Ole Miss, South Carolina, and then we're going to talk some Auburn, Georgia, SMU at Louisville, and then I've got some other random scores that we'll kind of go through and talk about as we kind of go through here. Connor Wegman makes the surprise start. Look, I said last week, I don't know if Connor Wegman's coming back, and I said, I don't know if it really matters. And sometimes when you say things, they're wrong. And that was just wrong. And Connor Wegman just played. I mean, this whole team played like we haven't seen all season. Now, some of the things still ring true about this team that we talked about last week. Weren't able to get any points through the air, but this time they were able to at least pass the football and scored all their points on the ground. No problem there. I mean, that's not a hit on Texas A&M or anything like that. Le'Veon Moss continues to be the most consistent thing on this offense. If Connor Wegman can replicate what he just did, and then you got a guy like Noah Thomas kind of stepping up, that was the best game I think I've seen Noah Thomas have definitely this season. Is this sustainable? Because this looked like the Texas A&M team that you and I had ranked in the preseason, had in our college football playoff prediction, right? This looked like the team that we were talking about then. And then that team was on the side of a milk carton, missing, and then decided to show up this weekend. Now, Missouri's probably not as good as what we thought either. But a lot of the things that we thought about Missouri just kind of rang true in this football game. Not physical, and they're not explosive. Texas A&M was 10 times more physical than Missouri in this football game. Hence all the yards on the ground, over 200 of them. What did you take from this football game? Missouri obviously overrated. Texas A&M, we had creep into our top 25 here over the last week or so, right? So is Texas A&M got something that is sustainable throughout the season? What did you think about what you saw?
Yeah, well, I said in our preview that I felt like this was a game where Texas A&M could come in, make a statement. I had no idea they were going to win by 31 points, but I thought that they could kind of turn the corner here and build some momentum heading into the later half of this season. That's exactly what they did, and then some. I had no idea Connor Wegman was going to start. We were we were talking about this game and saying, there's no way that he starts. Why would you start him? We saw how bad he is. All this stuff. He looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, which is what he was picked to be in the preseason. He was very efficient. 18 of 22, 276 yards, no touchdowns, but also no picks. And he was decisive with the football, made some really good throws. I was extremely impressed. Terry Bussey shows up, the true freshman, 5-star, finally shows up in this game. He had kind of been getting some more attention, some more targets, and it seems like maybe he was held out for this game. Wasn't really a part of the game plans up until this game. He has 3 catches, which isn't a ton, but 76 yards. Seems like a very explosive player, really good with really good ball skills, and is a guy that I want to see more of. I think that we will see more of him moving forward. And then Le'Veon Moss, just 12 carries, but 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, him and Parrish are battling for the best running back in the SEC right now statistically. And I just can't say enough about him. He looked like he just wanted to take this game over, and he did. Amari Daniels also 9 carries, 34 yards, punched in 2 touchdowns. This is the Texas A&M team that, like you said, we had picked to make the college football playoff. I said going into the season, I thought that they would have 2 bookend losses. It was the first week of the season, and it'll be against Texas at the end of the season. It looks like that's very possible right now with the middle of their schedule being very winnable. But as of right now, I really like what I saw out of the defense. This is a Missouri team that, yes, they are struggling to find the explosive plays, but make no doubt about it, they came in here knowing that this was a must-win situation, that the committee is not going to give them any favors with their schedule this year. They kind of had to win this one. I mean, not saying that if they don't win out or if they win out, they're not getting in to the college football playoff, but it just got a whole lot harder. for the Tigers here. And I don't see how they went out playing like this. This has been pretty much every game this year, other than what the first game of the season, that they have not scored a ton of points. Vanderbilt kept it close, which, I mean, Vanderbilt looks like a pretty good team right now too, but this is not this is not the team that we thought Missouri was. Texas A&M, like I said, they're turning the corner right now, and I think that they're going to start moving themselves up into the top 10 by the end of the year, and definitely a team that you got to watch out for as a playoff team.
No doubt about it. If they played like they did this past Saturday, then absolutely, man. Nick Scorton, 1.5 sacks in this football game, 2.5 tackles for loss. Texas A&M on offense able to run for 236 yards. That's good. That was 6.6 average there. Just really, really good day on both sides of the ball. I will say this. I mean, and I know I wasn't the only one that saw it, and I'm not trying to make excuses because clearly Texas A&M was the better football team today. But every time Mizzou did anything in that first half, a flag came out. And, you know, I'm not saying that those weren't penalties. I'm not saying that at all. But Mizzou just had an absolute self-destructive tendency in this football game. And then I want to say one other thing that I noticed about Mizzou. Luther Burden has got a bullcrap attitude. Bullcrap attitude. Not a leader. Diva. And that's the first time I've ever said that about him. But over there on the sidelines with a towel on your head or your head laid back, what are you doing? What are you, a kid in detention? Or are you a grown man? Maybe I'm super opinionated and a little edgy tonight, but I mean, I just, there's no leaders on this Missouri team right now. And Brady Cook isn't good enough to be a leader. He was out there seeing ghosts by the end of this football game. I mean, he was, I watched him run with the football one time. And I mean, he literally, like, running away from a defender would be like a nice way to put it. He, like, dropped like a sack of taters onto the ground, like, don't hit me, please. Like, this guy was scared to death out there. I mean, he I don't know, man. This offense, it ain't adding up. They weren't able to run the football today. Obviously, that took away a big part of their game. We talked about Missouri in the offseason, and we said, what are they going to do without Cody Schrader? And, you know, Missouri fans told us, Nate Noel, Marcus Carroll, they're going to be able to do it. And up until this point, they were able to do it statistically. Not today, as Texas A&M was the more physical football team and pretty much won in every facet of the game. Missouri's special teams even sucked today. I mean, I couldn't even pin somebody deep with a punt. Couldn't do anything right, man. And Mizzou, look, let's read some of these comments here for just a second because we got them pouring in here. Hey, thank y'all for watching. I certainly do appreciate it. We love chit-chatting with you guys, and we love coming in on here on Saturday night. It's one of my favorite shows. Tyler Miller, thank you. Welcome to the show, man. Upset Saturday. Yeah, it was. It was upset Saturday. I was trying to go back to his first comment. There it is. SEC had a bad day. No kidding. And I commented back. I said, no kidding. You could say the worst day ever. It's the first time ever that the SEC has had 2 top 5 teams lose to 2 unranked teams. It's the first time that's ever happened in the SEC conference.
Well, but it was 2 unranked SEC teams. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think that we saw that there's a lot of parity in the SEC, more so than we thought going into the season.
What was the spread on, and I'm asking you guys in the, watching live or comment section or whatever, what was the spread on Alabama, Vandy? I'm curious. Tyler Miller says, number 1, Texas, number 2, Ohio State, number 3, Oregon. We're going to talk about Oregon here in a minute, and, I mean, you can argue that, I guess. I didn't think Oregon, we'll talk about it in a minute. We don't have to go there quite yet. I didn't think Oregon set the world on fire. I'll just kind of leave it at that. They didn't cover the spread because I can tell you they didn't, because I bet on that game and I bet on them not to cover the spread, and they didn't. They won me some money by not doing it. Backdoor cover there by Michigan State. And honestly, shouldn't have even been a backdoor cover. Michigan State blew it in the first quarter of that football game. SEC lost big today, and some will not make playoffs. Tyler Miller, who are you a fan? What's your favorite team, buddy? I'm sorry, SEC is overrated. Sorry, people. But who are you a fan of? And I'd like to know which conference is underrated. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know if you're wrong or not. I mean, we're still in the middle of the season here. Double O'Neill, they're still bottom feeders. Vandy would be a bottom feeder in any conference. Don't make excuses. Who made excuses?
I think he's saying because I was saying that the top teams in the SEC lost to bottom teams in the SEC. I'm just making the point that there's some parity, more parity than we thought. I don't think that Vandy would be necessary this year would be a bottom feeder in a lot of other conferences. I don't think that they're going to be a bottom feeder by the end of this season. I think they've got a little bit of fight. Maybe a bowl team by the end of the year. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Tyler Miller said it doesn't matter. I mean, I was just asking. I guess it doesn't matter. I was just curious. I think the SEC is a pretty good conference, man. I don't. Big Ten is better. I don't know, man. What do you think about that, Mason? Big Ten is better right now?
USC beats Michigan and then loses to Minnesota. It kind of sounds like what we're talking about right now with Alabama losing and then, with Tennessee losing.
Yeah, Michigan, beat USC. But it's like, okay, so Ohio State, who are you? I mean, Texas is the number one team in the country right now. Everybody's got flaws, first of all. I'll just kind of preface it by saying that. But what one team in the Big Ten is beating Texas or Alabama? And then, okay, take those top two teams away from the Big Ten. Now, what third team is beating Georgia in the Big Ten? The third best team in the Big Ten is not beating Georgia.
That would be what, Penn State right now?
Yeah, they're not beating Georgia. Maybe is the Big Ten more top heavy? Maybe.
Yeah,
possibly.
Ohio State's got a really good shot to win it all. I wouldn't put it past a Big Ten national championship with Ohio State, and I think Oregon probably has a better chance of making it. We'll have to wait and see. They haven't looked like a national championship team so far this year, but we will know more about both of those teams next week. It's a fair argument, but I don't think that head to head that the Big Ten is better than the SEC. I think that there's just a lot of teams getting upset right now, and it is what it is. It's just a crazy season, and we won't really know. I think we'll have a better idea after the playoffs are played, better than we have in any other season, which conference is better, because we're going to see who gets in, and we're going to have a lot of those head-to-head matchups between conferences, and then we'll know, this year who's better as far as conferences. But it's a fair question, and you could make an argument both ways for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely up for debate, no doubt about it. I just, it's an opinion. I'm just trying to figure out by what. Now it's like a game I'm playing in my head. Who is Tyler Miller a fan of? Are you a Purdue fan? Is that why you're embarrassed to tell me who you're a fan of? But then he said Pac-12 went to Big Ten, so then that makes me think he might be one of those ex-Pac-12 fans. Who knows? I wish Tyler would just go out. Come on out and tell us, Tyler. Actually, Tyler, just come on the damn show, man. What are you doing? Is the link in the description, Mason?
It is. We had TriStar,
Oh.
TriStar figured it out. So
The only thing that's throwing me off about Tyler Miller maybe being a Purdue fan is his shirtless selfie that he's got there as his profile picture. That doesn't seem very Purdue. It's very Purdue to me. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Tyler, come on the show. SEC said they want 4 teams in the playoffs.
I think they'll get it.
Well, first of all, I think he's talking about automatic qualifiers. The SEC was in negotiations and was using that as leverage power because let's be real, if the SEC really wanted 4, okay, then they would have said, we'll do our own playoff. Either we'll get our 4 or we'll do our own playoff. They were just trying to see what they could get away with, man. SEC doesn't want any guaranteed bids. That was the point. And then the College Football Playoff Committee came back and said, no, we're doing these automatic bids. And that's what we went with, which is a terrible, terrible system. And if you're a Big Ten fan, I'm sure you can agree with me on that. Automatic bids are not good for college football playoff, and everybody's about to find that out here in a couple of months. I promise you. All right, we got to keep going. I could do this all night. Tyler Miller said he's West Coast. Like Chanel West Coast? Like from ridiculousness? Or I'm kidding, Tyler. Don't take offense to me. I've been drinking beer today. I'm just messing with you. All right, let's keep it going, man. Hey, you want to talk Auburn, Georgia?
Yeah, might as well.
Let's do that. Beck was very sharp today. Carson Beck, very sharp for the most part. Was the downfield passing happening as frequently as I wanted as a selfish little greedy Georgia fan? No. But, I mean, you can't ask for much more from Carson Beck. He took what the defense was giving him today. Georgia ran the ball pretty decently today. Still kind of a slow start. Scored at the last second here. And this has been kind of a going trend for Georgia. And by the way, Georgia wins 31-13 over Auburn. 8 in a row. It's over Auburn now, including the SEC championship going back to 2017 there. Georgia has been playing really inconsistent football offensively. Not showing up in the first half of football games, playing like, the damn New England Patriots from a few years ago in the second half. That's happened a lot this year. And as a Georgia fan, we were just asking for some consistency. That was the biggest thing. And I think we got a little bit more of that today. Georgia was able to sustain drives. And the biggest thing that I can kind of, hang that on and hang the hat on there today is Georgia was in third and manageable a lot more often today. Whereas earlier this season, Georgia was in third and longs, and it was just trouble for this offense. And it's no wonder that today Georgia is 7 of 13, over 50%, right about the mark they were in 2023, and they had success. And this was, for the most part, a sweat-free win here for Georgia, even though it was kind of a crock-potting. Put Auburn in the crock pot and come back about 4 hours later, and you've got a 31-13 win here. Hugh Freeze sucks. I don't like him. Okay. It's late night, guys. It's 12:30. I'm saying whatever I want to say. Hugh Freeze sucks. I don't like him. He seems like an a-hole. I can't believe that a quarterback would want to play for him after the way he's acted over the last few weeks towards his quarterback. No Hank Hill today. Hank Hill, where you at? Where's your propane and your propane accessories? None of that today. And for all of the talk that we heard about the horsemen, the four horsemen or the one-legged horsemen or the headless horsemen or whatever the hell we were talking about, Auburn has no wide receivers right now. They might as well be a bunch of headless horsemen running down the field trying to catch their pumpkin that is their head. They're no good. They're no good. Auburn could have been in this football game today if they had anybody with a pulse catching passes. That's about all I got on this one. Ingram Dawkins had a really good game, specifically first half, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Georgia defense looked decent, although still not able to set the edge in a lot of cases and still missing tackles. That's the biggest bugaboo for this Georgia defense at this point is setting the edge and tacklers not getting guys to the ground. We saw it again today a little bit. Now, I have to say Jarquez Hunter is quite the beast. What did you think about the game today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was still more of the same from Georgia in the defense. I did not see them containing the edge very well. Still have a lot of questions there. The defensive line, I was about to pull what hair I don't have out of my freaking scalp because it was very frustrating to see this defensive line kind of get worked like they did. They look good in the pass rush. And which is odd to say that Georgia is a better pass rush team than they are at stopping the run. But I wasn't really impressed with the defensive line. I thought that they would be a little bit better than they were. And, and on the back end, I thought that they played pretty well. I think that they covered up the receivers for Auburn pretty well. It's a young group, but ultimately, I mean, they didn't find the end zone, it's the receivers at least. But Carson Beck, like you said, he looked really good. 23 of 29, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked pretty sharp, had a couple of bad throws, but it was nice to see him back in rhythm, to see the way he was moving in the pockets and extending drives, and finding people on his second, third, fourth read at sometimes. That was pretty impressive. Trevor Etienne looks great. I think he's our best playmaker for Georgia. And then, as far as the receivers go, I think you're looking at the Georgia receiving group and just saying, yeah, they're slightly above average. The whole offense really is slightly above average in the SEC. I've still got a lot of questions about Georgia. This game was never going to answer any questions, but I feel like there's a lot to still learn about this team. But they do win. It never seemed like it was very close for the most part. And I got to see what they do moving forward. I'm just not much you can draw from this game. We got a couple of weeks until they play a good one. But for now, I guess I feel decent about Georgia. I definitely feel worse about them now, seeing Alabama lose to Vanderbilt. It seems like a missed opportunity for the Dogs, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I'm kind of putting Georgia on the shelf for now as far as a national championship contender.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. Just don't seem good enough right this second. But then again, we watch Alabama lose to Vandy. We watch Tennessee lose to Arkansas. We're watching Miami lose to Cal right now, 28-10. And so I see these things, and I see some of the things that Georgia's got going on, and I'm like, I feel like they can fix some of those things, man. I mean, I don't feel like these are just like, this cancer isn't something that can just be kind of cut off a little bit. I mean, I don't know. People are doing the same thing to Georgia over and over. And if Georgia can figure out a way to counteract it, Georgia's not a crazy physical football team. They're a finesse football team this year, man. That's what they are. And Auburn, I knew going into this football game how physical Auburn's defense was. They're physical. They're not bad. They're really not bad. And you can point to the offense for a lot of the issues that Auburn's had this year, but Georgia's just kind of a finesse offense right now, and I feel like some of their issues on defense, I feel like they can scheme around it some, and then I feel like there's got to be somebody that can step up and help this Georgia team. I don't feel like it's so bad that it's unattainable at this point. All right, let's keep it going. Double O'Neill, thanks for watching. Tyler Miller, who is first and long? We are first and long, Tyler. You're first and long right now. You're commenting on the channel. So you must be subscribed, right? We need more people here. This channel is funny. Go Georgia Bulldogs. Tyler, hey, we appreciate you watching, man. I appreciate you. We're a new channel, and it's hit or miss here. We'll post videos sometimes, and they'll get like 40 views, and then we'll post videos sometimes, and they'll get 13,000 views. You know, Mason knows how to tickle the little algorithm every once in a while and make it giggle. And you know, it is what it is. But we're having fun here, man, and that's Mason or I doesn't depend on this money from this YouTube channel it doesn't change our success in any way, shape, or form in real life. So we're just doing it for fun, man. We're just a couple of college football fans enjoying it. Just like you. Double O'Neill, none of these teams are Kryptonian. They are all beatable. I agree. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. Maybe my beers didn't let me get it out of my mouth all the way, but I agree, man. I just don't think there's any real great team right now. Texas might be, but I know Texas has got issues on that defensive line, man. I know they do on the interior of that defensive line. It just they haven't faced anybody that's been able to expose it. At all. Michigan's offensive line was the most physical that they've really faced, and they all had one returning starter from last year, right? I mean, a bunch of guys with no experience. So, I don't know. We'll see. It's just, is Georgia the defensive line, that's going to be able to stop their offense? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. But they have deficiencies at running back as well. So, we'll get to that game here in a couple weeks. SMU at Louisville, Mason. This one, we'll talk about this one real quick because I do want to get to the Ole Miss and South Carolina game. But SMU 34, Louisville 27. Kevin Jennings had the best day that he's ever had as a college football quarterback. He was 21 of 27, 281 yards, 10 rushes for 113 yards, 1 touchdown. On the ground, that is. This team is a whole lot different than they were at the beginning of the season with Preston Stone. They looked really, really good. And the biggest surprise to me in this football game was SMU's defense. Being able to limit the run, 3.9 yards per rush for Louisville's offense. They struggle yet again to turn yards into points. It's kind of like a Missouri situation for Louisville. Maybe not so extreme, but can't turn the production between the 20s into points on the board. It's the red zone. There was only 1 turnover by Louisville in this football game. Last week it was 3 turnovers in the first quarter. So I've been burned twice on Louisville. That's 2 weeks in a row now. I'm out. Louisville is not as good as what I thought. And I thought SMU played a really good football game. I thought there might be a little bit of a letdown moment for SMU after the emotional victory over Florida State last week. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It feels like Louisville's not as good as we thought. I think SMU's a little bit better than we thought. Going into the season, we were saying that SMU is kind of a dark horse ACC team, and then we watched them play the first few weeks, and we're thinking, SMU might just be struggling in a new conference. They didn't look like that in this game. I thought the defensive line played like really good, and the Louisville offensive line. I don't know why we assumed that the Louisville offensive line was just gonna tighten things up and play well against an SMU D line that we said going into this game was legit. I don't know. I should have never picked Louisville, is my point, but nonetheless, they let us down. Tyler Shook didn't play terrible, but didn't look like a guy that was about to go out there and win them this football game either. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 329 yards for him. Just really no playmakers, I think, for Louisville. Ja'Cory Brooks stepped up, had an 86-yard touchdown. That was huge. And Louisville really tried in the third quarter, tied it up. But SMU, credit them, credit their defense, comes up. They come up in the fourth quarter and blank Louisville just as soon as Louisville gets the tie, and you think that they may be able to string together a comeback. SMU just comes up and makes the stops where they need to, and blanks them in the fourth quarter. They outscore them 7-0. That was the football game. I'm curious with SMU moving forward. I think that the ACC's got to shift their attention a little bit more towards SMU. They do have a couple of playmakers. Really like, obviously, Kevin Jennings and what he's been able to do, not just in the air, but with his legs as well. And R.J. Maryland seems like the real deal. I mean, was there when they needed him, 6 catches, 83 yards. He seems like a go-to target for Jennings whenever he does pass the football. I'm really impressed with Rhett Lashley and what he's been able to put on the field this year. And we've got to circle SMU now moving forward, and we may be covering them a lot here in the future.
Well, look, so SMU is on a bye week next week, and then they're going to be at Stanford. And I'll go ahead and tell y'all right now, take Stanford plus the points. SMU will obviously be favored there. Take Stanford plus the points. SMU, look, I know that they're a decent football team, and I thought that going into the season. We did a breakdown on them, Mason, in the preseason. I mean, we obviously thought that they were going to have some type of impact on the college football playoff this season, and obviously they have. They've beaten Louisville now, but I'm interested to see, because I think there'll be an overreaction in Vegas is kind of my point in this. Maybe I think Louisville might just not be as good as what we thought. And the biggest question for Louisville was this offense going into the season. That was what all the Louisville fans told us when we did our breakdown back in July or whatever it was. And it made sense because most of the returning production was on the defense as far as the defensive starters for Louisville. So the offense hasn't really figured it out. And Tyler Shook, I mean, he had a decent game today for sure. And you know, SMU, a lot of their defensive spine was kind of stiffened up to stop the run for Louisville. So I don't want to demean Tyler Shook too much, but I mean, guys like 40 years old or whatever out there, and he kind of looks like it. Louisville has got Virginia next, and they got to go to Virginia. Virginia is a scary little team. We'll see what happens. Let's read a couple of these comments here. John Murata, hey, thanks for joining the show, John. I appreciate you. Vanderbilt, hell of a win. Was waiting to see if Bama will still have a coach, Tom. I don't know what that
tomorrow. I think he means tomorrow.
It's going to be an interesting week in
I talked to an Auburn fan. We were talking about the Georgia and Auburn game, and
sorry guys, I'm gonna
continued our conversation as Bama goes down, and he was saying, this is what I predicted would happen to Bama. They lose a couple of games that they're not supposed to lose, and these fans are going to run them out in 2 years. I tend to think Kalen DeBoer's going to get it figured out, but he might not be wrong at the same time. Looking at, I mean, it's one loss. I don't want to make too much of it. And I know John Murata, I know you're not either. It's fun to pick at Bama right now, but yeah, I mean, the pressure is high in Tuscaloosa, and if he continues to put up some stinkers like this, then yeah, he's going to be on the chopping block for sure.
Tyler Miller just said the guys on this YouTube channel are in college. What? Dude, we are not in college. I wish we were in college. Yeah, I wish I was at college.
Probably should be.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I am not a college person. That is for sure. I partied at several colleges, but I never darkened the doorway of a classroom, not once. So you'd be dead wrong on that one. I never went to a day of college in my life. Now, Mason, on the other hand, has got degrees and shit and working on degrees and shit. So, but we are kind of cut from the same cloth. We're from the same area. Let's just say that. Let's see. All right, we got to go. We got to talk about Williams-Brice Stadium. Ole Miss at South Carolina. Ole Miss won 27-3. What an anticlimactic moment for the South Carolina Gamecocks, right? And look, I just want to. Well, first of all, let me say what I liked about what I saw from Ole Miss. The defense is legit. There's no doubt about it. This defense is legit for Ole Miss. Now, I saw their secondary again kind of bailing out the offense a couple of times by getting penalties, and 8 penalties in this football game again for Ole Miss. They've been penalized a lot, and so if you want to kind of knock one thing, I guess I'm always kind of going to the negative first, but I think this defense is for real for Ole Miss, and I think that Shane Beamer made a really dumb decision at the beginning of this football game to go for it, to fake the punt there on 4th down. That was a just terrible decision. I mean, you're backed up on your own side of the field. What are you doing? It just didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense at all. And if you're going to sit there and go for it on 4th down, don't you want to get in some kind of base offense or something? You want to run from a special teams, and they didn't even do anything creative. It was like a damn direct snap, run up the middle. Like, who did South Carolina think they were? They were about to run up the middle. JJ Pegues was lined up right there. It didn't make any sense. It totally threw off the balance of this game early, and beyond that, I don't think it would have made that big a difference. Ole Miss was 100% zoned in. They were ready for this football game. They were ready to prove everybody wrong about what happened last week. And where I still have some of the same concerns about Ole Miss, about being able to run the football, they figured out a way to supplement that this week with J.J. Pegues, the former tight end, 325 pounds, running it in 2 different times for touchdowns. So short yardage situation or even medium yardage situation, you might just have to tackle a defensive lineman there for Ole Miss. That's kind of where we're at. Henry Parrish is getting the bulk of the carries, and then they're handing it off to J.J. Pegues on the offense. He's got 4 total touchdowns this year. South Carolina takes the big L here, 27-23 to Ole Miss. Mason, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, poor South Carolina fans, man. They were commenting on the show, talking about how wrong we were for not picking South Carolina to win this game. I mean, when you look at it, South Carolina beat Kentucky. Kentucky beat Ole Miss. Therefore, South Carolina is about to beat Ole Miss, right? Well, you put up 3 points. So probably not going to win with 3 points. This game, honestly, kind of lost my attention pretty early on. I mean, Ole Miss goes up 14 points in the first quarter. They're up 24-3 by halftime. I mean, it had the makings of a bloodbath. Now, credit South Carolina's defense. They did hold them to 3 points in the second half, but it was too little too late. This South Carolina offense is not set up to win in comeback fashion. They're just not. Mm-hmm. They needed to be up at halftime by a couple touchdowns. They needed to play some Beamer ball. And so much for South Carolina playing in October. I think they're 0-4 in their past 4 games in the month of October. I mean, not a good October team. So I think we can put the October little bit to rest here. I thought Lenore Sellers, came back, wasn't terrible, but he's got a long way to go.
Stats right there. I didn't even.
20 of 32, 162 yards. Obviously, no touchdowns. Did have 1 interception. Another 15 carries on the ground for 55 yards. But he's got a long way to go, and he doesn't have anybody to throw to either. Like, this is not a South Carolina receiving group that's breaking away from anybody. They lost their best wide receiver, Juice Wells, to Ole Miss, and he played pretty well in this game. He led the team with 97 yards receiving. You got to know that feels good for him. Trey Harris once again puts up 81 yards. I mean, my gosh, we're wondering if this guy's going to hit 2,000 yards. You mentioned that in the preview, but Trey Harris still looks like the best receiver in the SEC right now. Parrish at running back, I was concerned about him going into this football game because of the injuries that he sustained at the end of the Kentucky game. He looked pretty good, averaged 3.9 yards per carry or with one touchdown. And maybe that's why you saw J.J. Pegues in the short yardage situations. I mean, it's not the only reason you saw him, but I think that you're trying to limit Parrish a little bit, moving forward, because he is kind of their only running back right now. Matt Jones was their number 2. He had 10 carries for just 13 yards. They're kind of relying on Henry Parrish in the running game. They don't have a mobile quarterback for the most part. Jackson Dart is pretty good on his feet, but this isn't Jalen Milroe, right? So I thought it was obviously it was a decided victory by Ole Miss, but I still have questions about this team moving forward. Credit them, they get the W, but they got to continue to impress on offense. But the defense looked good, which I expected this week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, considering the situation, I thought South Carolina did a good job limiting the points that went onto the scoreboard because, like I said, Beamer set them up on their first touchdown. I mean, they had to drive like 30 yards, seriously. And then it was a turnover the next drive, I believe, by Lenora Sellers, if I'm not mistaken, and set them up again with another short field. And it was like 14-0 real quick. And I mean, this game was only 27-23. So honestly, I thought the South Carolina defense did the best they could in this football game. The South Carolina offense is the issue at this point. And we talked about it. They haven't played their best football yet this season. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but I don't think it was going to happen against Ole Miss. This is a pretty stout defense. Thank you all so much for watching. Those of you watching live or any of you coming back and watching tomorrow morning, a lot of you like to watch on Sunday morning. That's why we like to do it on Saturday night, make it available for you guys. Got a few of y'all hanging out. Let's read some more comments. Tyler Miller said, now we've got 4 people in here watching this channel. We've got to get some more people. This is just hilarious, these 2 guys. Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it. What he said, what about Kentucky? What
they were
Kentucky?
Off. They had a bye.
Oh, he's talking about Ole Miss. Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about that last week, but I mean, Kentucky's got a hell of a defense. I mean, and Kentucky didn't hand the football game over in the first half, Kentucky is a weird little football program right this second, man. They're still trying to like grow their tail on offense. I don't know what they're doing. They're got a unique situation going on there with a new offensive coordinator, Bush Hamden, and Brock Vandegrift coming in. He's a running quarterback, probably a better runner than a thrower. They just got they're growing their tail on offense is really, I guess, kind of the best way to put it. Double O'Neill, I heard the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the G5 was crap, but now they're winning in their new conferences. So, well, look, let me tell you this right now. The Pac-12 last year was, if not the best conference in the country, they were probably the second best conference in the country. I mean, realistically, I thought the Big Ten obviously had the best team in the country. Maybe they cheated. I don't know. Who the hell knows? But, there's some evidence to support that. But I thought the SEC was the best overall conference in the country last year. I thought Pac-12 was probably second, and I thought the Big Ten was probably third. But I thought Big Ten had the best team, if that makes any sense. Probably more top heavy. Double O'Neill says, I ain't crowning a champion yet. I'm with you, Double. I think this is going to be, we might have like have we ever had a 2-loss national champion? I'm sure I probably haven't, I guess. I'm sure we have. Alabama probably made up having one of theirs. So let me tell y'all something. Alabama says they have like 20 national championships or whatever the hell they say. They're a bunch of liars because everybody left for the war, and then they started claiming national championships. So there's a year in there where Alabama has like 4 losses, and they claim a national championship, which is BS, obviously. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm drinking beer and I'm getting way off topic here. Let's talk about some more of these football games real quick. We'll go through some of these scores. And let's talk about
for the record, Mark. It looks like LSU in 07 was the last team with 2 losses to win. Before that, it was, and this is a 2018 article, but 1960 was the last time before then. So I think you might be onto something.
Yeah. This might be the
obviously,
season.
You're going to see it in the 12-team playoff. Like, it'll happen. Probably this year. I mean, realistically, I don't know. Maybe Ohio State goes undefeated. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
Texas.
I mean, yeah. I just Ohio State, we don't know, because Ohio State, they've played, 3 Helen Keller schools for the blind and deaf, and then 2, underling Big Ten teams at this point. So we don't really know anything about them. I mean, there wasn't nobody they've played that was ever going to be able to stop them, no matter what they wanted to do. Now, Ohio State's defense, I think, is legit as all get out. But offensively, I've still got some questions. I mean, you don't just plug in Will Howard and then all of a sudden you're just a national championship shoe-in, right? Like, I mean, we've seen the good, we've seen the bad, and we've seen the ugly from Will Howard. So, obviously he's got his best surrounding cast ever, in his career. What does he do with it? I mean, today, we'll kind of talk about this one real quick. Ohio State wins today. Shit, I forgot to write down their score. What was it, 38-7?
35-7.
35-7. I had the 7 written down, but not the 35. But Emeka Egbuka has 3 touchdowns receiving today, and carries Ohio State past Iowa, this is one of the worst Iowa teams we've seen over the last few years, in my opinion. So, not much to take from that one either. I mean, it is what it is. Washington defeats Michigan today, 27-17. Much to my chagrin, that was my money line pick for the week. I was trying to hit on the money line once again and was not able to do it. It would have been 4 weeks in a row. Look, Michigan's just really bad, and it was just a matter of time before somebody else figured out that Michigan doesn't believe in the forward pass anymore, right? Michigan is a run first, run second, and run every single effing time football team. They're just not good offensively at all. And apparently not that good defensively either, because Washington scored 27 in this football game, and Rutgers was just able to hold Washington to 19 last week and win me some money on that bet. So, Michigan was way overrated in everybody's rankings, including ours, but there was no, one thing that you could point to and say, that's why they're not in the top 15 right there. Well, now we've got it. They took a big fat L and walked out in the middle of the field there and dumped all over the back of their legs. What did you think about those couple games? Or you got another game that you want to mention? I got a couple more I want to mention for sure, or a handful more. But did you have anything on those, or is there one in particular you wanted to talk about?
Well, I will say with the Ohio State game, did you see the catch by Jeremiah Smith, the one-handed touchdown catch?
Say that again. I'm sorry. You caught me reading a comment. I'm sorry.
I said, did you see the one-handed touchdown catch by Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State?
I did not.
Oh, man, you got to go back and watch it. Once again, I mean, he's a human highlight reel. There should be a bigger debate going on in college football about who is the better freshman wide receiver. Is it Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams? Because I've still got my money on Jeremiah Smith. Now, he hasn't played against Georgia. We haven't seen him on the biggest stage yet. but we may see it next week. And so I still think that Jeremiah Smith might be the best freshman receiver in the country. But going to Michigan and Washington, I kind of had this game going, wasn't paying too close of attention to it. It was an interesting game, but there was a lot going on right then. But one thing that I wanted to note is Michigan played its third quarterback of the season in Jack Tuttle. He's finally back from injury. He was the one who we were thinking would be in competition with Alex Orji. Michigan hasn't figured anything out on offense, and I don't think they're going to. They are just looking for something, and I don't think that they're going to find it this year. Defense was decent, but not great against this Washington offense. At what point is Jed Fish? I mean, is he going to really just open up this offense? I have a feeling that this offense is figuring his scheme out and things like that, but this is a really good offensive mind, and I think if they could start getting some momentum, Washington could be a pretty fun team to watch on offense.
Yeah. Jed, Jed Fish, and I trust. I mean, that guy is a hell of a football coach. Cal up 35-16 on Miami. Miami's about to go for the 2-point attempt here to make it 35-18. Miami converts. So that's going to be 35-18 there. We'll read some more comments here, and I'll go through some more scores. If y'all have a game that y'all specifically wanted to talk about, please let me know. And I'd love to. I'm going to try to get all of them. I hope I don't forget any. I took copious notes. How many? 5 pages of notes. Holy shit. It's awesome. Oh, I forgot to send my comment there. Tyler said, "Oh, really? You mean Alabama claims they've won all these championships? That's crazy." Mason, did you know that about Alabama, that they have faked like they've won championships?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what the true national championship number is for Alabama.
I think it's like 13, and they claim maybe it's 14, and they claim 19. It's something like that. I mean, they claimed a few of them.
I've heard like 35. So it's crazy.
Yeah, they're a trip over there. If they can't win it, then they'll just, they'll pull a Florida State and make everybody rings or whatever. Speaking of Florida State, oh my God, what a damn train wreck of a program that is. Holy crap. Florida State, I guess, they decided to kind of boycott the postseason last year. Looks like they're going to be able to boycott the postseason again this year. They're just going to go ahead and boycott 2 years in a row. But this year, the only difference is they're not going to let their all-freshman team come out and get smoked by Georgia by 100. That'll be the only difference. Double O'Neal, the NCAA record is posted online. I'm not sure what he's doing. Can't believe Alabama did that. And Double O'Neal, they claim more than that. Yeah, Double O'Neal, how old are you? Because look, I'm not like an old man myself, and it doesn't matter how old you are necessarily, but I was just curious. I mean, back in the day, there was no championship game. It was the media voted on these things, and so there was an AP national champion, and then there was a coaches poll national champion, and all this different stuff. 52. I got you. I'm how old am I, Mason? I'm 31. I had to think about that. NCAA, let's see. Tyler Miller, Sunday, I'll be interested when they have the latest poll come out. Well, Tyler, they will have that come out on Sunday. I know it's usually Sunday afternoon. We'll be back on live every Sunday. We come on here live, give our updated top 25, and then we do like an early preview into next week's games, which are Texas, Oklahoma, big rivalry game there. Ohio State at Oregon, going to be a huge matchup there, obviously. Ole Miss at LSU, Penn State at USC. I don't really care that much about that last one, but nonetheless, that's a few of the really, really good matchups for next week. So we'll be ready to give you guys our initial thoughts on those big matchups for Week 7 tomorrow evening. We typically try to do that. Well, me and Mason need to talk about that, but last week we did it a little earlier, and it seemed to go really well. So we'll kind of talk about that after the show ends. But that's why you got to be subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed. That way you know when we're going live. It's in the evening every single time. Subscribe and you'll know. Double O'Neill, can't wait to that cluster. Trevor Chard. Hey, what's up, Trevor? Welcome to First and Long, man. WPS, go Hogs. Hey, man, good for you, dude. Congratulations. What a big freaking win. And I'm so happy for Sam Pittman. I mean, I really am. I love Sam Pittman, man. And I'm just super, super excited for him. We'll get to some more of these comments, guys. Keep them coming. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Mason, you had bet on the Syracuse at UNLV game, right?
I did. I took Syracuse on the money line. Made me some money. It was a
Nice.
good one.
Well, tell us about that football game while I go take a pee-pee.
Yeah, so Syracuse wins 44-41. I'll be honest, I didn't really catch a lot of this game, but Kyle McCord had 63 pass attempts in this football game. I did not expect that. I thought Syracuse would be a little bit more run heavy in this game. I thought that they would be a little bit more physical than UNLV, but that was not a part of their game plan, obviously, in this football game. However, they did a decent amount of running. 33 rush attempts. Kyle McCord had 4 of them. LaQuint Allen, 19 rush attempts for 71 yards, had 2 touchdowns as well. But Kyle McCord, 40 for 63, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He seemed to, once again, just kind of steal the show for this Syracuse offense. We used to call him Kyle Honda McCord. I think we got to call him like Kyle Lexus McCord. He's not a Ferrari necessarily, but he's working his way up in the car brands, isn't he, Mark?
He better be. He better get him a really nice Honda, a VTEC or something, dude. Look, I did watch a pretty good bit of this football game. Syracuse looked like the better football team to start the game, and then UNLV, they're an explosive offense. They're what do they call it? The funny fun offense, or the funny gunny offense, or whatever the freak they call it. Who cares? That one coach has like a necklace with like some kind of weird little slogan on it or whatever. UNLV runs a fun little offense or whatever, but Syracuse is just a really good offense at this point. Kyle McCord is way better than what we all thought. And Kyle McCord is also proof that maybe you're just better off working with a quarterback one year and then trusting that he's going to get better after he's had some time as a starter. And Kyle McCord has just gotten a lot better. And I don't know if you saw it, Mason Jackson Meeks had a hell of a game.
He did.
I say a hell of a game. I mean, he had
some key catches.
Yeah. Clutch, super clutch. Yeah. When they needed it most, he was there. Really, really impressive there.
Former
Syracuse
Georgia wide receiver,
for
those who don't know. Jackson.
Yeah, he was a former Georgia guy. Several Georgia dudes have made their way over to Syracuse, including the head coach there, Fran Brown, if you don't know, was a defensive coach there for Georgia last year. Syracuse wins 44-41. UNLV, sorry, hardly knew you. Indiana, 41. Northwestern, 24. Michigan State, 10. Oregon, 31. Let's talk about this one for a second. Let's talk about the Oregon game. Tyler Miller. Let's read some of these comments here, and then we'll talk about the Oregon game. How about that? Tyler Miller says, "Go California." West Coast guy. Never even as far west as I've been is the Rockies, my friend. Never been any farther west. Oh, yeah, that was another one in Florida State. Everybody said, oh, they're going to win a championship. And I thought, what are they smoking? They said all Florida State's a great team. They're going to win a championship for sure. Yeah, Florida State's been complete ass. We've been fading Florida State since the beginning of the season. We were actually one of the only rankings that I saw that didn't have Florida State inside the top 20 to start the season. Who is first? Who is long? You know what's
I love
funny?
that slogan. Love that slogan.
You know what's really funny, Tyler? I have really thought about opening the show with, "Hi, I'm Marcus First. That's Mason Long." I've thought about it 100 times because it does have a little bit of ring to it. Marcus First and Mason Long. That would make a lot of sense, actually. But First and Long, here's kind of the story on that. So it's no secret. We've only been around here. This is our second college football season. Last year was more of a trial run. Mason and I actually are related. And so we met up at we had met up at a family function, and I said, you know what? I really think we should do a college football podcast. And I think we should do it this year because the 12-team playoffs coming, and it's going to be a really big year here in a couple years. And so lo and behold, we end up doing it. And the whole point of the First and Long thing was like, it's like an offense that comes up to the line of scrimmage and moves immediately, gets a flag, starting behind the chains, 1st and 15, it's 1st and long. We never had any type of advantage doing this. We were always starting from behind doing this channel. And I think our attitude is just kind of more like we wouldn't have it any other way. And it's a 1st and long approach here. 1st and 10's hard enough. We'll throw on the extra 5 and put it on our back. We're gonna be able to convert. And that's the 1st and long. That's where 1st and long came from. And it is what it is. Who is Double O'Neal? You'll have to ask Double O'Neal that. Yeah, exactly, Double O'Neal. Behind the chains, exactly. Tyler Miller, I will be at the game next Saturday. What game? You said go Arkansas. You're an Arkansas fan. That's not
Definitely
West
not.
Coast.
Definitely not an Arkansas fan.
Oh, well, you might live West Coast and then root for Arkansas, I guess. Interesting. Hey, and we had an Arkansas guy on here earlier. If you're still on, did the goalpost come down? Trevor Chard? I don't know if you're still here, but did the goalpost come down? I don't know if they did or didn't.
I think
All right.
Tyler's talking about the Oregon-Ohio State game, being that he's on the West Coast. Maybe he's going to that one. I hope he is, because that would be a fun one to be at.
I'm Marcus, by the way, Tyler. I'm Marcus. Shit. That's Mason. I can never remember. It's backwards. It's like running a trolling motor on a boat. I can never remember. Dad, coach, business owner, property owner. That's what I'm talking about, David, Double O'Neal. I am actually all of the things you just mentioned. We have all of that in common. I'm a dad. I am a coach. I am a business owner. And I am also a property owner. So you and me both. We have a lot in common, Double O'Neal. Pretty cool. All right. Double O'Neal, are you okay, he's a Boise. I know you went to Boise State, right? So Double O'Neal, are you a fan of another team or just Boise State? I know you're just a big college football fan, but anyway, I was just curious. And then Tyler Miller says, I have to get Jake Paul in here. He keeps saying that. And dude, I would box Jake Paul if you could get him on the show.
That would be hilarious.
I would get the shit beat out of me for him to come on this show. Absolutely.
Hey, if we
Double
get
O
him
Nielsen.
on, then we could just get Trump on. You know, I mean that's the end. That's the end to get Trump on the show.
First and long, the best college football show. I saw it. I said, wow, that's the best college football show. All right. Michigan State at Oregon. I wanted to talk about this football game. Oregon tried their very best to crap down the back of the leg on this football game. Now, Jordan James ran the football really well in this, or especially early on in this football game. I think he got a little banged up, and it kind of slowed things down or whatever. I still am not sold on the Oregon run attack. I'm not sold on it, Mason. I'm just not there. And then some of the throws that Buddy Boy was making, and why am I forgetting his name?
Gabriel?
Gabriel, the transfer quarterback, yeah.
Okay.
The guy's like 42, right? Been playing college football forever. And he made some boneheaded mistakes in this football game. Now, everybody has bad days, and I totally get it. But this Oregon team as a whole, and I'm not just talking about Gabriel, but this Oregon team as a whole has had multiple bad days already this season. So it leads me to believe that this team is going to get got at some point. Now, Michigan State they couldn't muster up the strength to be able to do it. Michigan State hits a big play at the very beginning of the game, gets all the way down to the goal line, and they pronounce it Childs. I thought it was Chiles. Whatever. Whatever the hell his name is. I don't name them. I just mispronounce their ass on YouTube.
He's obviously not Hispanic. If it's not Chiles, then he's not Hispanic.
I mean, I was trying to put a little Mexican twang on it. But it's Childs, apparently. He goes down, he fumbles right on the goal line. And it just totally changed the complexion of this football game from the very beginning. It was kind of like the South Carolina Ole Miss thing today, where South Carolina goes for the fake punt. It blows up right in their face, just like it was like throwing a grenade against a brick wall, right? It just blew up right in your face. I covered on this, and I said last week, I bet on Michigan State last week in week 5, and said that they were going to be able to cover against Ohio State. They didn't. And I said, well, you know what? I think I picked the wrong week. I think this Michigan State team is made to cover against this Oregon team who has struggled to run the football. And I looked like an idiot for most of this football game until Michigan State hit the backdoor cover there at the end. Did you happen to get eyes on this one, Mason?
No, I didn't. I was thinking, why the heck was I not watching football last night? And it finally dawned on me it was family movie night. So I was I had the TV taken from me, but you gotta find some time with the family on the weekends too. So Friday night, I guess, has become that night. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of leaning on you for this one. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch it. Obviously, we jumped right into Saturday football today. I will go back and watch it because I need to see what Oregon did. But I expected coming into this game, which I thought it was a perfect play for you to pick Michigan State to cover in this game, because I knew that Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks were going to be a little bit vanilla. They got a big game coming up next week. Not that you can take Michigan State lightly, but I think that they were, and I didn't watch the game, so I don't know, but I think that they probably played a little bit vanilla in this one, keeping some of those blitz packages and some of the offensive stuff off the film for Ohio State next week coming into town.
Yeah, man. I'm not crazy in love with this Oregon offense right now. I'm just going to be honest with you. And there was a lot of shuffling that was done on the offensive line, specifically on the interior of this offensive line over the last couple of weeks. And it looked to be working really well early in this football game. And then, for whatever reason, Oregon just kind of hit a wall there in this game. And I just thought it was a little disappointing, being able to allow Michigan State to cover here. Michigan State's got a good defensive line. That's why I bet on them plus the points to begin with in this football game. But really just wasn't, I don't know. I felt like I got away with one there, but I don't feel like I get away with many betting against Vegas, right? So I'll take it. But it was an interesting football game, and didn't think Oregon played their best football, but you could say that about a lot of their football games this season, for sure. Even though they did play some pretty. Boise State was a tough game early in the season, no doubt about it. And by the way, Double O'Neill, hometown UNC fan, fan born, and then schooled at Boise State. You're well traveled, Mr. O'Neill. Holy cow. Give me y'all's playoff teams.
I'll do a favor here, and I don't know where we're at right now. We'll have to maybe revisit this tomorrow potentially when we do our top 25. But for you, Double O'Neill, this was our preseason playoff teams, or these were our preseason playoff teams. So do with that what you will. Obviously, a lot of this is changing. If I had to do it over again, I would have Texas in there. I think when you look at Liberty at 12, right now I would slot in Boise State with the way that they're playing. I think that they could definitely be that team that gets that at-large bid there in the 12 hole. I think a lot of these rankings would change, but for the most part, I feel pretty good about a lot of these teams in here. Maybe let's slide out Ole Miss and put in Texas, but I feel pretty good about the rest of them, right? I mean, maybe Utah. We'll see. Maybe Kansas State slides in there instead of Utah, or maybe a Iowa State right now. But yeah, I feel like it's a pretty solid preseason prediction. And Double O'Neill, I see. You had Liberty. I know you're a Boise State fan. I actually had Boise State in, Mark, if you recall. I had Boise State in the preseason prediction, and we kind of went back and forth, and decided to put Liberty in instead, but. Almost had them there. They were the next up for sure.
Yeah.
Any
go
ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think we're kind of between Boise and like Army. I mean,
or Navy.
Army's really good, y'all. They go and win again, and I'm not saying that they're gonna compete with Boise, so don't get it twisted here. But Army wins today 49-7 against Tulsa. They weren't 42-point favorites. They covered the spread there. Bryson Daly, the quarterback, 5 of 5. 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, 13 rushes, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So 4 total touchdowns for him. 5 of 5 today. It looks like a halftime stat or a first quarter stat, but Bryson Daly is a playmaker, and Army's pretty good. Navy's not too bad either. Boise has got the one loss to Oregon. I feel like Boise is, and you're right, Double O'Neill, there's lots of football left, and obviously hard to predict college football. And even sitting here looking at this 12-team playoff right now, Michigan is obviously the number one team that I regret on here. Liberty's still alive. Texas A&M's still alive. Tennessee's still alive. Notre Dame is probably not alive, honestly. Ole Miss is still alive. Georgia's still alive. Ohio State's still alive. I mean, so, not a lot has changed yet. Texas A&M and Texas play at the end of the season. Last game of the year. It's going to be an unbelievable rivalry game. If we get Texas A&M from today, Texas A&M will win that football game, y'all. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be at Kyle Field. If Texas A&M plays like they played today, they will beat Texas at the end of the season. Now, will Texas be undefeated at that point and it won't really matter that much? I don't know. We'll see. That's the part I really don't know. But Texas A&M played today like we thought they would whenever we talked about them in the preseason. So, we'll see. I mean, people on the East Coast, they always think they're the best. They never support West Coast teams. Well, I mean, we had Utah on there. Who were we supposed to have on there? We had Utah on there. We had Oregon on there, right?
I mean, the best pick so far on this show was Washington making the playoffs last year. So, I mean, I know Tyler, you weren't around last year for that, but
That's true.
We gave them a lot of credit. I actually was higher on Oregon last year, and Mark had Washington and was dead right on that. But yeah, we don't. I don't think we really discriminate on the West Coast teams. Probably a little bit more SEC centric, just given where we're at regionally, but we try to be very fair and unbiased.
My preseason prediction last year was Georgia-Washington in the national championship. That was my preseason prediction. And not many people were picking Washington preseason. I mean, they just weren't. You can only guarantee one conference champ, Boise. All the rest are toss-ups. Well, that's true. Yeah, it'll be the highest ranked, right? So depends on who's ranked higher, that wins their conference or whatever. See, people don't watch West Coast teams. Well, we do, Tyler. We do. We watch all the teams, but I know what you're saying. And it's not because of the people out east don't watch the West Coast games. It's because the people out on the West Coast don't watch the West Coast games. That's the problem. Now, whether there's so much to do, I don't know what, it's a religion down here in the Southeast, brother. I mean, college football is an absolute religion. There are, out of all the churches in the Southeast, 85% of the pastors will talk about college football at some point tomorrow on stage. They'll make a joke about it.
They'll hear it tomorrow.
Yeah, every single one of them. It's literally part of every single day life down here. And I just, it doesn't seem like it's like that out west quite as much. I know sometimes it is, and depending on the teams and things. Do you know ESPN Game Day went to California? Yeah, I do know that. I mean, where else was they going to go? It was a good opportunity for them to go out west. And, look, ESPN is not something I'm a big fan of, Tyler. I'll just be honest with you. You know why ESPN went out to Cal? So they could go do game day, and then everybody could go fly where they needed to fly on time to make it to the other games. That's why they went to Cal. And I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody down or anything, but ESPN thinks about stuff like that. They're not, they're not necessarily worried about the very best matchup or anything like that. Never give West Coast teams credit, but that's okay. Okay. Whatever you say, I mean, I'll give anybody credit that deserves it. I think Georgia hit a wall. I think Alabama hit a wall. I think Missouri hit a wall. So quit. I think he meant to say quit picking on Oregon. Hey, we pick on everybody. You should have been here last week. You should have heard what we said about Georgia. If there was any Georgia fans watching, then they would probably not watch anymore. How much money did you lose today on the games? Probably a lot, because you can't do. Did you? Actually, I was over 500, and that accentuated my over 500 mark for the season betting on football games. So, Tyler, if you would have bet what I betted this weekend, you would have made some money, brother. Just about like every single weekend so far this year, actually. So, I hate to say I told us so, but I told us so. And I do bet on football games. I'm still running off of my balance that I won last year. I haven't added another, and that balance was from the balance from the year before. I haven't added $1 to my college football betting fund in going on 3 years now, because I don't go less than 500. So you say what you want, but I don't lose money betting on college football. And then once a year, I'll cash out and take the bulk of the cash and give it to my wife. All right, Mason. Let's go. Let's just go through the rest of these scores real quick. Baylor, Iowa State. Last I saw, Iowa State's winning 43-21. Iowa State looked like they comfortably won that one. Clemson 29, Florida State 13. Florida State is an absolute garbage can. Boise State ends up beating Utah State. I don't see the final. I forgot to write it down. I'm sorry.
62-30.
62-30. I had the 30. I didn't have the 62. USC loses at Minnesota 24-17. Penn State wins 27-11 over UCLA. And I think I mentioned all the rest of these. Miami at Cal going on now. It is currently Cal up 38-18 over Miami. 11:22 left there in the fourth quarter. And then Texas is playing at Zona. It's Zona Tucson. And I don't have the score of that football game handy.
It's 18-9 right now. Texas Tech is up.
Texas Tech is up. Wait, you said what? 18-9?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. You guys got anything else to add to it? I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for watching the First and Long College Football Show. Love coming on with you guys on Saturday night. I hope that y'all will join us tomorrow evening. We're going to drop our top 25. We're going to give you our early thoughts on all the biggest games for the Week 7 slate of college football. Tuesday, we'll have our preview and predictions. Thursday, we'll have our betting show Between the Lines. We hope that you will join us for all that good stuff. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. See you tomorrow.